All right, so welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive with us. This time, though, we're doing things a little differently. We're diving into a bunch of YouTube videos, and these videos are analyzing other videos all about, well, this mysterious document.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and here's the thing. This document, it's incredibly simple,
Oh, okay.
almost absurdly so, but it sparked like a ton of debate and analysis online.
Really? What is it?
Okay, so get this. The document just repeats Poopoo Peepee over and over.
Wow. That's interesting. I mean, it's certainly unique.
I know, right? My first reaction was basically just to laugh.
Yeah.
But then I kind of got curious, like, why are people taking this so seriously?
Yeah.
What are they hoping to find in Poopoo Peepee?
It is pretty fascinating how something so seemingly meaningless could grab so much attention.
Right.
It kind of makes you think about, like, our need to find meaning even when it's not there.
Yeah.
Like, we're hardwired to look for patterns, trying to make sense of things, even in the most unexpected places.
Exactly. And some of the videos we're looking at today start with the obvious.
Okay.
Trying to decode it, like, could it be a lost language? Or some kind of secret code?
Oh, like a cipher or something.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a natural first thought.
I know, right? Like, I immediately thought of that, too.
Yeah. It's like, is there some hidden message here?
But, as the videos point out, actual languages, they need complexity, right?
Yeah.
To actually communicate something. And a code without the key, it's just a bunch of random symbols.
Absolutely. It's like trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing.
Right. So even though those initial theories kind of hit a dead end,
Yeah.
it is interesting, right? It tells us something about how our brains work.
Oh, totally. Like we're pattern-seeking machines, always trying to connect the dots.
Exactly. Like, our ancestors out on the savannah, they see a rustle in the grass.
Oh, yeah.
It's better to assume it's a lion and be wrong than to ignore it and,
Become lunch.
Exactly. So maybe that instinct is kicking in here with this document, We see Poopoo Peepee and our brains just can't handle the randomness of it.
We're trying to impose order on chaos, trying to make it fit into some framework we understand.
Exactly. And, that leads to some pretty interesting interpretations in these videos.
Oh, I bet. Do they go beyond the whole trying to decode thing?
Oh, yeah. Some of them get really philosophical. One idea I saw was comparing this repetition of Poopoo Peepee to things like mantras or lullabies.
Oh, that's interesting. Repetition can definitely have a powerful effect.
Right, like those annoying jingles you can't get out of your head.
Totally.
Even if you hate the song, that repetition gets lodged in there.
It worms its way in.
Yeah. So maybe the meaning of Poopoo Peepee is not in the words themselves, but in that effect that repetition has on us,
I see what you mean. So instead of trying to decipher what Poopoo Peepee means, we should be asking, how does it make us feel?
Exactly. And, that is a huge shift in perspective. Like, it makes you wonder if our brains are actually rebelling against the meaninglessness of it all.
Oh, that's an intriguing thought. Like, our brains are so used to finding meaning that when they encounter something that seems truly random, they almost refuse to accept it.
Yeah. So our brains might actually be making up meaning where there is none.
Which, raises some interesting questions. If our brains are so prone to finding patterns, even when they don't exist, how do we know what to trust?
Right. Like, how do we separate real insights from just seeing things?
Exactly. It's like, are we just making it all up?
Well, before we spiral down that rabbit hole too far, I think we need to take a step back and really define what we mean when we say meaning. Like, is it something inherent in the thing itself? Like in the Poopoo Peepee document? Or is it something that we create as observers?
Whoa, that's a big one.
It is, right? And I'm not sure there's an easy answer.
No, definitely not. But it's a question worth exploring.
Exactly. So let's dive deeper into these YouTube interpretations, shall we?
Lead the way. I'm hooked. So one of the YouTubers we're looking at, they actually frame this whole Poopoo Peepee thing as like a Rorschach test,
Oh, interesting. Like those ink blot things.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah.
Where people see different things based on like their personality and experiences.
Right, right.
And it's kind of the same thing here, right? With Poopoo Peepee, people are projecting their own ideas of meaning onto this document.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I mean, we've already seen how some people see it as a lost language, a secret code, a mantra.
Yeah.
Like, it really does depend on what they bring to the table.
Exactly. Their own baggage,
Yeah.
And that kind of leads into another layer of analysis in these YouTube videos. They start comparing Poopoo Peepee to art movements like daddyism.
Okay, I've heard of daddyism, but I'm a little fuzzy on the details.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Can you give us a little refresher?
Yeah, so daddyism, it emerged in the early 20th century. And it was kind of a reaction to the horrors of World War I. Artists were disillusioned with like traditional values, ways of thinking, and so they embraced absurdity, nonsense, irony.
So instead of creating like beautiful paintings or sculptures, they were making art out of everyday objects or even just ideas.
Yeah, exactly. Like one of the most famous examples is Marcel Duchamp's fountain. It was literally a urinal.
A urinal.
Yeah, which he signed and presented as a sculpture.
Really?
It totally shocked people.
I bet.
And it really made them question what art even is.
Okay, I see. So how does this all connect to Poopoo Peepee? Are we saying that Poopoo Peepee is like our generation's urinal?
Maybe. I mean, it is a provocative thought, right?
Yeah, that's
It
good.
could be seen as a kind of anti-art, like a rebellion against the expectation that everything has to have meaning and purpose.
It's like a giant so what
Yeah.
to the serious art world.
Right. And just like Duchamp's fountain, it's sparking all this debate, making us reconsider assumptions. Like maybe the meaning isn't in the object itself, but in the reaction it creates.
Wow, that's a really interesting parallel. And what's even more interesting is that these YouTube videos, they're adding yet another layer of analysis to it all.
Oh, yeah. It's meta-analysis on meta-analysis.
Right. They're analyzing videos that are analyzing other videos.
Yeah.
It's like we're getting further and further away from the original source.
Exactly. And they often do it with a sense of humor, poking fun at how seriously everyone's taking this whole analysis process,
It's like they're acknowledging the absurdity of it all, but still trying to find meaning in it.
which is, I think, a very daddiest thing to do.
Yeah, it is. So it's not just a deep dive into Poopoo Peepee, it's a deep dive into how we make meaning, period. We're analyzing how people analyze.
And I think that's one of the most valuable takeaways here. It's not about finding the right interpretation of Poopoo Peepee, but understanding how we create meaning.
That's a good point. But there's still this nagging question in my mind. If meaning is so subjective, so dependent on the observer, does that mean it's all relative? Like, there's no objective truth?
Ooh, now you're getting into some deep philosophical waters. I don't think there's a simple answer to that. But I do think this whole Poopoo Peepee phenomenon can help us understand how our own biases shape how we interpret information.
Right, you're talking about those invisible glasses that we all wear.
Exactly. The filters that shape how we see the world. We all have our own experiences, beliefs, and values that influence how we see things.
So instead of passively accepting information, we should be more active in how we make meaning.
Absolutely. And that's where these YouTubers are onto something, you know? They're pushing us to be more skeptical, to question our assumptions, and to be open to different perspectives.
And to find the humor in it all. Because let's be real, this whole thing is pretty ridiculous.
It is.
That's also kind of fascinating, you know?
Yeah. Totally. It's a reminder that even absurd things can teach us something valuable about ourselves and the world. Think about it this way, you know, like the daddyists. They used absurdity and nonsense to kind of disrupt the art world, shake things up and make people question like their assumptions about beauty and meaning. And Poopoo Peepee, in its own weird way, it seems to be doing something similar, right?
Yeah.
Provoking reactions, sparking debate, making us confront our ideas about what's meaningful and what's just silly.
So are we saying Poopoo Peepee is some kind of masterpiece of the absurd? Like, I can't picture it hanging in a museum next to, a Monet or something.
Well, that's the beauty of it, right? It throws those traditional notions of art right out the window. It makes us think about whether meaning is actually in the object itself or if it's something we, as viewers, we create by engaging with it.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. And if art is supposed to provoke thought and, challenge perspectives, then Poopoo Peepee definitely does that.
Right.
It might not be, traditionally beautiful, but it's definitely gotten us thinking.
And that's where its value lies, I think. Not in the words themselves, but in the conversations it sparks, the questions it raises, the mental gymnastics it makes us do, the mental workout.
So instead of dismissing it as nonsense, we can actually, learn from it.
Exactly. And those lessons aren't just limited to the art world, right? These insights about meaning, bias, interpretation, they apply to everything we encounter. The news we consume, the conversations we have.
Right. We talked about how repetition can influence our thinking, our biases shape our perceptions, and how meaning is often subjective. These are big ideas that go way beyond just analyzing this document.
Exactly. And in this age of information overload, those skills are even more vital. They help us be more discerning about what we consume, more thoughtful in how we communicate, and more aware of our own thought processes.
So this Poopoo Peepee deep dive, it's actually been about more than just this document. It's been about equipping ourselves to navigate the world with more clarity and critical thinking.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And hopefully, with a sense of humor, too, because let's be honest, the world can be pretty absurd sometimes.
That is the truth. So how do we take this Poopoo Peepee wisdom and apply it to those real-life moments that
Yeah.
feel like they just defy logic?
I think that's where that mental palate cleanser idea comes in.
Oh, yeah. One of the YouTubers mentioned that. It's like hitting the reset button on our thinking.
Right. When you're feeling overwhelmed, stuck in a rut, or faced with a situation that just makes no sense, sometimes the best thing is to just embrace the absurdity of it all.
So instead of trying to force meaning onto everything, we should maybe just allow ourselves to be confused, amused, even laugh at the ridiculousness of it all.
Exactly. Letting go of that need to control everything and just being present in the moment, even if that moment is utterly baffling.
That's actually really freeing when you think about it. Giving ourselves permission to not take everything so seriously. Embrace those poo-poo pee-pee moments as like mental refreshers instead of frustrations.
Exactly. Sometimes the best way to make sense of the world is to stop trying to make sense of it all the time.
Well, I'm definitely feeling a lot more zen about this whole poo-poo pee-pee thing now. It's gone from confusing and kind of silly to a launching pad for some really deep conversations about meaning, bias, and critical thinking.
It's amazing how something so seemingly trivial can spark such profound insights. That's the beauty of exploration and curiosity.
So to our listeners out there, next time you come across something that seems confusing, contradictory, or just plain ridiculous, remember this deep dive. Don't dismiss it right away. Lean into that curiosity, ask questions, embrace the absurdity. You might be surprised by what you find.
Because even in the most unexpected places, we can find valuable insights and a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world.
It's been an absolute pleasure unraveling this poo-poo pee-pee mystery with you today.
Likewise, it's been great. And to our awesome listeners, thank you for joining us on this wild ride. Until next time, stay curious, stay skeptical, and don't forget to embrace the absurdity.
That wraps up another deep dive. Catch you next time for another adventure in exploring the strange,